Hey, everybody. So I've got some unexpected company coming this afternoon, so I'm not going to be able to do our normal Torah study. Um, I think with Linda being on a cruise and Barb being, otherwise occupied, Pat Thelma, it's up to the two of you, obviously. If y'all still want to meet and discuss anything, I would highly encourage it. And if you guys can just, watch this video, if there's anything to gain from it to add to your study or, thoughts or whatsoever. Um, it good. I would like to hear your thoughts and your study as well. So maybe we can just kind of all get together some point next week to kind of do like a one-off, because I know that we had talked about doing these on the Sabbath, on Shabbat, which would be today, but we can do them a few days late if y'all want to. But Uh, this the third parsha, Lekh L'Kha. I can't pronounce. That's a Hebrew word. Means get yourself up. It starts in Genesis chapter 12, but kind of like what we did with the previous parsha. Kind of rewind it back to the last part of the previous parsha, just to try and get a context, because in this case, our chapter 12 starts out with now Adonai said to Abraham or Abram. Let's kind of go back and read, who is Abram, where did he come from? Chapter 11, verse 26, Terah, who is the father of Abraham and two other sons, started having children at the age of 70. His sons were, of course, Abram, Nachor, and Haran. And Haran fathered Lot, who plays a big part in this going forward. But unfortunately, Haran died at some point, within their homeland. So it. But he was the father of Lot. But basically, going forward, Avram and Nachor took wives, Sarah and Milcah. Milcah was the daughter of Haram, so I guess Milcah married his niece. Different time, I guess. But this may, kind of play into how things are dealt with later, and I think that the word kind of explains a lot of this. But we know that Sarah was Sarah being Abraham's wife. She was barren; she couldn't have kids. Um, but what had happened is again, Terach. I don't know how to pronounce it. I'm sorry. Abraham's father took Abraham, Lot, and Sarah, to go to the land of Canaan, kind of going to better, greener pastures, some area to better themselves. Best I can deduce from what I read. But in that, the people that his own father took to go with him, this Milcah was not part of that. So I don't know. Maybe he screwed up marrying his niece. Maybe he was outside of the family covenant, so to speak, for who knows, whatever reason. But they set out for the land of Canaan, but fell short. They settled in Haran instead, where Abraham's father lived to be 205 years old, and he died there. Um, and that's pretty much where parsha number 3 starts. Is Avram, Abram, not yet Abraham, Abram or Avram, depending on how you want to pronounce it or what you're reading. He, his wife, and his nephew are living in Haran. And so enter chapter 12, which, looking at my notes now, basically, chapter 12 starts off with now Adonai said to Avram, get yourself out of your country, away from your kinsmen, and away from your father's house, and go to the land that I will show you. So that's God's commandment at this point to Abraham. Yeah, leave your father's house and your kinsmen, and this is where where Yahweh makes this beautiful promise to Abraham that I will make you a great nation. I will bless you and make your name great. And we all know that part. I'll bless those who bless you, curse those who curse you. But these other words that are not mentioned frequently, that the other things that God said here that just, I mean, that they're beautiful and they really make you think, are things like, and you are to be a blessing. I will make of you a great nation. I will bless you and make your name great, and you are to be a blessing. Neat. And then, going into verse 3, where we hear what we hear all the time: I'll bless those who bless you, curse those who curse you. And then the follow on to that, which you hardly ever hear, if ever, is, and by you, all the families of earth will be blessed. Kind of cool. It's just, this is why there's benefit in reading these parshas, I think, because, I mean, it's just all the beauty in words that you just otherwise you don't get to experience. And it's just, I mean, it's all here. It's all in the writing. But yeah, that's but yeah, at the ripe old age of 75 years old, we are now in verse chapter. Okay, so I'm sorry, I'm trying to find it. Verse 4, chapter 12, verse 4, we're still early in the parsha. This is where Abraham went as he had been commanded. He took Sarah and Lot with him. And, the fact that he took Lot after being told to leave his kinsmen, yeah, I don't know if that was directly disobeying, but I mean, there are things later on that would suggest that may be the case, that wasn't actually part of God's plan for Abraham to bring Lot. But it is important to know, though, that out of all the people that existed in this time, that God reached out to Abraham and wanted to build a nations of people from the seed of Abraham, because Abraham was special. There was definitely something in Abraham that no one else had at the time. He was, I don't know if that was just because Abraham had such strong faith, or was just, such a loyal servant to God, but it was something. It was something. But anyway, the fact that Abraham may or may have not obeyed what God commanded by bringing Lot, I don't know. But yeah, at the age of 75, he set out as God had commanded, and took all his possessions as well as the people that he had acquired. I never knew that part. I didn't realize that he set out with all their servants and whatnot. That was pretty cool. I mean, you got to imagine this may be a lot of people. But anyway, going into chapter 11, no, it's chapter 12, but verse 11, they were kind of out and about doing their thing. And they were getting close to Egypt because of, logistical issues. They had to, wow, I just did a thing. They had to come in close to Egypt to get where they were going. And because Sarai, I think was her actual name prior to Sarah, which, toward the end of the Parsha, you'll read, how that all comes together. But she was apparently very beautiful, and Abraham was Avram. He wasn't Abraham yet. I keep making that mistake. Sorry, but he was concerned that that people in Egypt would see how beautiful his wife is, and try to kill him to take his wife away. And he's probably right. But the Pharaoh's princess saw Sarah, and I guess it was just notable that I guess how pretty she was. Therefore, the Pharaoh brought Sarah, Avram, and I'm assuming Lot in, and it, wined them, dined them, gave them gifts, cattle, slaves, everything else. And I think what was going down, although not explicitly stated, was that the Pharaoh was trying to get his mac on with Abraham's wife, and yeah, verse 17. Now I got a note for 17. That's when Adonai inflicted great plagues onto the Pharaoh and the household because of Sarah being Avram's wife. So I think that was because the Pharaoh was trying to, schmooze in on Sarah, etc., etc. And again, that was obviously a lie. And Abraham asked his wife, Sarah, to lie for him. But again, was this wrong? I don't know. I don't know because, I mean, who knows what might have happened otherwise? Maybe they would have killed Abraham and taken his wife, his slave or whatever. But at the same time, that goes back to the faith that we have in God to get us where He asks us to go safely. And safely, I mean, that doesn't always mean that we won't have some type of tribulation along the way. I mean, yeah, we may suffer in that, but in the end, I mean, things will work out as planned, and it will, however we suffer in that journey, he's not going to go back on his promise, and it will all, end up being for our betterment, and that we'll find joy in that suffering. It won't be suffering after we come to full realization or full understanding. I think would be the better way of putting it, but I don't know. I think maybe I'm rambling. Okay, so God revealed that Sarah was in fact Abraham's wife by inflicting great plagues on the Pharaoh. And the Pharaoh, I guess these plagues were bad enough that the Pharaoh, it doesn't really say what these plagues were. It said great plagues, so I'm assuming they were bad enough. It So yeah, the Pharaoh says, "Hey, these plagues are bad. You lied to me. This is your wife, but you told me that's your sister. You guys, get your stuff and get out." And it was kind of mentioned too that the Pharaoh instructed, all of his guards and everyone to let them go, let them pass the land peacefully. So again, after causing these plagues and this sort of thing, I mean, depending on the Pharaoh and his persona, I guess. I mean, he could have had them killed or thrown in prison or whatever else, and maybe that's part of the way God works. Things. Just trust Him, and you're not going to be killed. You're not going to be taken captive. Something will happen, and the Pharaoh will just say, "Okay, go pack your stuff and get out," which is what happened here, and that was pretty cool. So that's pretty much the way the remainder of 12 plays out. Getting into chapter 3, they went up from Egypt. They're past Egypt now, and they're kind of going out into some wilderness, yeah, something kind of area. It's beyond Egypt. It's beyond the great cities, I think, at this point. But this is when you start seeing a lot of strife between Lot and Avram. It's not only between them; it's between their people. They both have servants and employees and that sort of thing that is traveling with them. And they pick up a lot of things. If you read, they pick up a lot of things on the way too. So both of their traveling groups are growing a lot, and there's a lot of bickering, a lot of strife, a lot of quarreling. So it's decided here, where Abraham says, let me find it in the actual text here. So wealthy, much cattle. Lot, who was traveling with Abraham, also took flocks, herds, and tents, but the land could not support their living together because their possessions were too great for them to remain together. Moreover, quarreling arose between Avram and Lot's herdsmen, the Kenani, I don't know what that is, and the Perizi, I don't know what that is either, were living in the land. And Avram said to Lot, please, let's not have quarreling between me and you, or between my herdsmen and yours, since we're kinsmen. Isn't the whole land there in front of you? Please separate yourself from me. If you go left, I will go right. If you go right, I will go left. Lot looked up and saw the whole plain of Jordan, as well as, watered everywhere before. Just basically, a nice landscape, which drove him, I guess, to travel eastward. And going eastward, Lot lived, among cities, and ended up settling near Sodom. And the people of Sodom were evil and committed great sins against God. So it wasn't it wasn't a good place to be, but that's where he ended up setting up tent and where he decided he wanted to live. So that's where Lot lived, and we'll come back to that again later. And then the quarreling and that sort of thing, the strife, the drama they were all dealing with. That may go back to part of the problem of why did Abraham bring Lot after being told to leave his kinsmen? It's I don't know. It doesn't really say a lot about that, about his decision of bringing him, but it does explicitly state that God told him to leave his kinsmen behind. But yeah. So drama created, in my opinion, because Avram brought Lot where in fact he was not supposed to. I think he was just supposed to be himself and Sarah, and their belongings, their people, their servants and employees, etc. So chapter 13, verses 14 through 18, I have that written down as significant. All right. That was, again, because my memory is terrible, 14 through 18. Adonai said to Abraham, after Lot had moved away from him, and it kind of, I guess that's another point too, is like, after Lot moved away is when God came back to Abraham and was kind of like, okay, now we're back on track. Let's continue this promise I have for you. And, so, it makes sense, right? That, Lot wasn't supposed to be there. But anyway, starting over at 14, Adonai said to Avram, after Lot had moved away from him, look all around you from where you are, the north, south, east, west. The land that you see will, I'm giving to you and your descendants forever. And I will make your descendants as numerous as the specks of dust on earth, so that if a person can count the specks of earth, etc., get up and walk through the land, the breadth of the land I will give to you. And this land, I believe is, not yet, but it is to be, it will eventually be Israel. Because, Israel, that's going to be a parsha for later on where Israel actually came from. But this is the land given to Abraham and his descendants, and everyone, pretty much anyone who's part of it. But that's a good thing to read. Definitely read that. So chapter 14. So chapter 14. Uh, got more Lot drama here. The area, Saddam, where Lot, set up home, it's war torn. There's a lot of political dynamics going on there. Kings fighting, falling, new kingdoms being stood up, new rules. And what happens in all this is Lot, along with all his possessions, including his employees, servants, etc., are all taken away from him, and Lot himself, being held captive. And so going back to my notes here, so yeah, the word made it back to Avram that his nephew had been taken. So what was it? He had some number there. Oh, 318. Yeah. So Avram, sorry, he had 318 well trained men. I don't know how many men Abram had at this time, but just to have 318 well trained and ready for battle, I would assume that Abram's numbers were significant. So he took 318 well trained men, and he went and he recovered Lot's possessions and recovered Lot himself. And in this, chapter 14, trying to find where it's actually written. So during the night, he and his servants divided forces among them. Then attacked and pursued them all the way, to blah blah blah. They came in, they kicked some butt, and he recovered all the goods and brought back his nephew with all his goods, together with the women and other people that were taken captive. So thus, increasing their numbers even greater. By how much? I mean, it doesn't really say, but I would, it was enough to be noteworthy here. So I mean, their numbers are growing, and they're creating almost like a nation within themselves. I mean, this is a time when Abram probably couldn't be a king, because I don't think that type of authority was given to God's people yet at that time. But after rescuing his nephew and then all these other people, the king of Sodom went out to meet Avram in the King's Valley. And here, we'll just read 18 through the rest of 14. So, Malachite is something, whatever his name is, the king of Shalem, brought out bread and wine. He was Kohen of El Elyon, basically God of Most High. So he blessed him with these words: "Blessed be Avram by El Elyon." I don't know. Maker of heaven and earth, and blessed by El Elyon, who handed your enemies over to you. Avram gave him a tenth of everything, so that's good. I mean, he kind of, I guess, I don't know why, maybe just kind of like here, take this, just leave us alone. But the king of Sodom said to Abraham, "Give me the people and keep the goods for yourself." But Avram answered the king of Sodom, "Okay, yeah, so this is, yeah, I should have known this, because, I mean, I read this just earlier. That, the reason why he gave him these things back, and why he refuses, I guess, to keep these goods from the king, is because, well, let me finish reading it. It'll make more sense if I read it to you. The king of Sodom said to Abram, give me the people and keep the goods for yourself." But Abram answered the king, "I have raised my hand in an oath to Adonai, maker of heaven and earth, that I will not take so much as a thread or a sandal thong from anything that is yours, so that you won't be able to say, 'I made Avram rich.' I will take only what my troops have eaten, and share the spoil belonging to the men who came with me." So that goes to, I guess, an oath which is not noted earlier within the scripture that I've seen, at least, that an oath that Avram made with Yahweh, and that is to maintain integrity. because if Avram were to take gifts or tithings from kingsmen or whoever else, then yeah, I mean that could that could be seen as a either a bribery or glory could be given to those who are giving things to Avram instead of Yahweh. So it goes back to maintaining that integrity. And that's pretty much the end of chapter 14. Chapter 15, we go into Sarah and her inability to mother a child yet. This kind of opens up some of the drama that Sarah had when she tells Avram to go lay with her slave and create a child that way. And then reading into the text, there's instant regret and things go bad. Let me fast forward, and I'm still on 15, so let me get into 16 here. So yeah, there's regret there, but the slave, whose name is I don't know. She has a name. She's in here. Read it. Look her up. She does bear a son. But during the time that she's pregnant, she's I guess there's a lot of drama between her and Sarah, and Sarah makes it really difficult for her. She's really mean to her, so therefore she runs away, and one of God's angels finds her near a river and tells her that it's all going to be all right. God sees you and God knows you, and your son shall be called this. Okay, here it is. Chapter 16, verse 7. The angel of Adonai found her by a spring in the desert. The spring, so it was a spring, it wasn't a river. I'm sorry, my bad. The spring on the road of Shur said. On the road to Shur, I'm sorry, and said, Hagar is her name, okay, Hagar, Sarai's slave girl, where have you come from and where are you going? She answered, I'm running away from my mistress, Sarai. The angel of Adonai said to her, go back to your mistress and submit to her authority. And the angel of Adonai said to her, I will greatly increase your descendants. I will greatly. The angel said she's going to greatly. I guess the angel through God's authority. I mean, yeah, that's weird. I've never noticed that until just now, that the angel told her that I will greatly increase your descendants. There'll be so many that it'll be impossible to count them. The angel said to her, look, you are pregnant and you will birth a son. You are to call him Ishmael. And the which means it's Hebraic for God pays attention. That's what that name stands for. So again, going back to God knows you. God's paying attention. Makadas Adonai has paid attention to your misery. Your son will be a wild donkey of a man with his hand against everyone, everyone's hand against him. Basically, living at odds with his kinsmen and etc. etc. Kind of, I don't know, maybe a troublemaker, maybe just hard-headed. I don't know. But, yeah. So went that. And Avram was 86 years old when Ishmael was born. That was verse 16, where it says he was 86 years old. Next up is verse 17. I got a lot of notes for 17. One thing, that during this entire parsha, a lot of things are happening here. A lot of things are going on. And, I highly recommend reading, because I've skipped over a lot of things that are very important and that you may see a lot of good things in as well. So, I mean, please get your thoughts back to me some way or another. But we'll go ahead and I'll do my best to. I'm not good at reading out loud, but I'm going to do my best to read chapter 17 out loud instead of just going through my notes, which have kind of become a disaster. So when Avram was 99 years old, Adonai appeared to Avram and said to him, I am El Shaddai, God Almighty. Walk in my presence and be pure-hearted. I will make my covenant between me and you, and I will increase your numbers greatly. Avram fell on his face, and God continued to speak with him. As for me, this is my covenant with you, and that was weird. Sorry. As for me, this is my covenant with you, and you will be the father of many nations. Your name will no longer be Avram, but your name will now be Avraham or Abraham. So that's when he became Abraham. So mystery solved. All the like Avram, Abraham, and me having to correct myself earlier. We understand that now. So Abraham. You all right, bud? Weirdo. So Abraham, which means father of many, because made from you will be many nations, etc., etc. I'll cause you to be very fruitful, and I will make nations of you, and kings will descend from you. I'm establishing my covenant between me and you, along with your descendants after your generation after generation, an everlasting covenant to be with God. For your descendants after you, I will give you and your descendants after you land in which you are now foreigners, all the land in Canaan and permanent possessions. I will be their God. Good. God said to Abraham, as for you, you are to keep my covenant, you and your descendants after you, generation after generation. Here's my covenant which you are to keep between me and you, along with your descendants after you. Every male among you is to be circumcised, and this, generation after generation, this is a sign of the covenant between God and Abraham. And hey, you okay, bud? All right. God said to Abraham, as for Sarah, your wife, you are not to call her Sarah, or Sarai, I guess, which means mockery, and that's where I went wrong. I think I mentioned that before, too, and I kept calling her Sarah. It's actually Sarai before this point. And her name is now to be Sarah, which means princess. I will bless her. Moreover, I will give you a son by her. Truly, I will bless her, and she will be a mother of nations. Kings of peoples come from her. It's, wonderful. Truly, I will bless her. Again, kings of people. At this, Abraham fell on his face and laughed. He thought to himself, will a child be born to a man 100 years old? Will Sarah give birth at 90? Which, this is old, but at the same time, kind of a different time. And even Abraham's dad, who was like 70 before he started, having kids, and I don't know how long. I mean, he did live to be, 250 plus change. So I don't know how late people were actually having birth in these days, but yeah. But anyway, he said, am I really gonna, have kids at 100 and Sarah being 90? God answered, no, but your wife will bear you a son, and you're to call him Yitzhak, Isaac, which means laughter. And I will establish my covenant with you as an everlasting covenant from his descendants after him. But as for Ishmael, I've heard you, I have blessed him, and I will make fruitful and give him many descendants. That's his other son. Remember doing to that poor cat. He's stupid. All right. I'll establish my covenant with Yitzhak, whom Sarah will bear to you at this time next year. With that, God finished speaking with Abram and went up from him. Abram took Ishmael, his son. Oh, all right, shut up. Abraham took Ishmael, all the slaves born in his house, and everybody, got them together and circumcised all the males, and to keep that stupid cat. He, it was a sign of the covenant to have them all circumcised, etc., etc., and they were all circumcised together on that same day. And all the men in his household, both slaves born in his house and those brought with money. Oh, those bought with money. I'm sorry, from a foreigner. They were all circumcised. So there are footnotes here. That is the closure of this parsha, but there are footnotes here to read Isaiah 40:27 through 41:6, and Acts 7:1 through 8, Romans 3:19 through 5:6, because these apparently tie in and have significance with the story in the parsha that we just read. So yeah, the thoughts that I had here, I mean, not as fruitful as last time, I don't think, but still good reading, good thoughts to have, good parsha, and I would definitely like to hear your thoughts as well. So, I don't know that we're going to have time to get together. I mean, later this week we can. I certainly support it. I'll cut a hole in my schedule to try and make that happen. But worst case, just read the parsha. Watch this video if you have time, and yeah, just let me know your thoughts. And love you, and I'll talk to you later.